Right. I've like managed to come out to the shop for a few bits, and then, you know, I get this happening. I can't go about my daily life ever without something happening. Look at it. You know, and it hurts. I'll try and keep still so you can see. I'm in my car at minute in car park filming this. It's hard to keep still when you're shaking. For God's sake. Everybody's looking at me in car park. I can't stop shaking. Honestly. You won't believe what we have to put up with. I can't cope much longer. It's every day. I hate it. And I hate it more that we don't get help. It moves like, you know, really subtly. You have to really watch. But see that movement, although it's subtle, I feel it. I feel every bit of it, and it's so mentally draining. And like, you know, when I try and explain to people what it feels like, they just don't understand, because you can't put it into words really. And I don't know. Seeing is believing, I suppose, for most people, unless they see what we're saying with their own eyes is true, then they're never going to believe us, and they're never going to acknowledge us, no matter how much scientific evidence you put in front of them, you know. But what I don't understand is how they're not willing to accept that this bacteria has been about since the Ice Age, dinosaur era, you know, and it's still about, and it's now evolved enough to infect a human host. And it's like, why do they think that something that existed, I don't know my history proper, but years and years before we was a speck of dust on the planet, yeah, why do they think that they know everything about it? You know, it's survived all the way through, like, you know, the dinosaur age, for God's sake. It survived, and it's evolving, and it's very, very clever. And I mean, when I see what's happening to my body, and I feel it happening, it's really frightening, you know. And it takes a lot of work on my part to cope with how scared I am, because I can't be running around flapping in front of my children all the time. You know, my husband, it's mentally affected him watching me suffer like he does. He's sat in appointments verifying what he's seen, and I still don't get believed. And then we found out that apparently there's, I can't remember the name, I think it's French, but there's a term used for people who are in a relationship with someone with this disease end up believing it's real themselves, and so they're delusional. So all this time, my husband's been coming with me to appointments thinking, you know, well, I haven't got it, I'm mentally sound. Well, he was until he witnessed all this. You know, all this time we've been thinking his opinion mattered, and it never, because secretly they've been thinking he's not right either in his head. And it's like, there's millions of people in the world, yeah, all crying for help with this disease. And you'd think that somebody in the profession would actually, like, take time to listen to these cries for help, because they keep coming and there's more and more cases all the time, and still nobody's listening. I never ever in my life thought that I'd end up with an illness so bad that honestly you wouldn't leave an animal to suffer with. I never thought in my life I'd have something like this and not even be helped, not be believed. It is harrowing to live with this. It's not just destroyed my life, it's destroyed my husband's and my kids. They're all mentally affected. My kids are constantly worrying about me dying because they know my partner's mentally unstable as well. Well, my partner, my husband. And they truly believe when I die that he'll kill himself. And I'm sorry to say I'm inclined to agree with them. So, you know, it's like, come on, please just help us, because look at this. I mean, just looking at the texture of my skin, you can tell it's not healthy. I mean, that there come up in while I was walking around bloody home bargains for a few toiletries. It's not fair. It really isn't fair to leave us like this. And then all this attention COVID is receiving, it's heartbreaking for us as Lyme and Morgellons patients, because we've been suffering in silence for decades with this. And it's a zoonotic disease, exactly the same as COVID is, right? Only there's far more to it than there is with COVID. But then again, I don't know, because COVID's new and we don't know everything about it yet. But the government are realising it's serious. There's long-lasting effects. I spoke to the policeman that came the other week to my house because my husband had a mental breakdown, and he said 9 of his work colleagues have had COVID and they're still not right. They can't run as fast. They can't do things like they used to do. It's lingering, and they're not even back at work yet, right? And that is how it is with a zoonotic illness. It's not a quick fix problem. You can't just prescribe one pill or whatever and it's gone. It's a complex, highly intelligent bacteria. I mean, I've been tested positive for Borrelia burgdorferi, Bartonella hensleyi, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and Chlamydia pneumoniae, right? But I had to pay, I don't know how much, it was silly money for that test from Armin Labs in Germany, because the NHS tests are that outdated and they only test so many bands for the bacteria. They miss a lot of positive people. They give off false negatives, right? So then these patients that are desperately unwell get sent on the way and get told, oh no, you haven't got it because our test says you haven't. Well, I'm sorry, but we know our own bodies, right? Your test is saying one thing, but our bodies ain't, you know, they're doing another. And why? Why would anybody want to give up a perfectly normal life, existence, social life? You know, why would anybody want to do that and then pretend they've got a disease that nobody believes? I mean, where's the logic? And how can millions of people, suffer the exact same delusion? Mental illness is mental illness, right? Yeah, I've heard of that Munchausen's, I think it's called, where they make parents will make the children sick because they like the attention. That's a mental illness. But this isn't a mental illness. Mental illness, if you're delusional, you have your own delusionals. You're not going to mimic millions of other people across the world are not going to mimic the same delusion, are they? You know, how can you even put it out there that it's a delusion? Because I'm not being funny, the ones that have given us that label are the ones that need the label putting on them. Because mental illness, I know all about it. I've grown up with it with my mum. And no two people can suffer with the same delusions. I mean, my mum's schizophrenic and she used to think the shadows, any shadow off a tree or whatever, her own shadow on the path, when she had a nervous breakdown, she used to think that them shadows were coming to kill her. That's a delusion. That's her delusion, right? So, you tell me, you explain to me how you can pass this off, right, as delusional parasitosis. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And I'm not even educated. But I tell you, living with this disease for 10 years, I'm educated on this to an extent, and I can put my life on it. I could tell you more than you've learned in your textbooks because I'm living with it. You know, it's horrific, and I've had enough. Really have had enough. And, oh God, I can't work. I'm living on breadline. Everybody around me is suffering, as well as me. And I'm trying to get sickness benefits awarded to me, but they won't give them me because the disease isn't recognised. Right, and I'm in the middle of an appeal now. And if I lose this one, I'm not going to bother trying to apply again because I've already been refused so many times. And the health assessment that the DWP did on me was false. I can't believe how many lies this person's wrote about me in the health assessment report, which leads me to believe that the DWP PIP health assessors, they work on commission. You know, we'll put so many through and sent rest home. I mean, a nurse, it were a nurse that did my health assessment. Is a nurse educated in a broad spectrum of, conditions like this one, for example? No. I didn't even know this stuff existed. You know, I didn't even know what a tick was. And that's another thing, right? The government have known about Lyme disease now since 1975, right? And what I cannot understand is why haven't you ever put out a health warning? You know, just like you do for meningitis and things like that, and strokes, what to look out for and what to do if you spot this and that. Why has there never been anything in place when you know that this disease exists? And it is vital to get treatment straight away, or you end up with this for your lifetime, right? Incurable. But if you was to get treatment quick enough, you can be cured. So why ain't there a warning out there for people? If there was a warning, I would have known then what to do. And I wouldn't be in this position now, would I? You know, it's really, really wrong. It really, really is. Oh, I never knew about ticks. I didn't know anything. But I do know one thing's for sure. Even if you were to get caught early and get treated early, one 28-day course of antibiotics don't solve it. And, oh God, what were the other point? Oh God, I can't think. My mind's going blank. I'm sat in my car. I feel like the whole world's staring at me because I'm talking to me. Well, it looks like I'm talking to myself, but I'm not. But yeah, it's like, come on, please, will you help us, please? I don't know. My faith in humanity has it's just disappeared. And you know, seeing how the government's reacted over COVID on social media and news, running around not knowing what to do, it just destroyed any hope I had of ever getting this acknowledged. You know, it's like, I cannot believe a government just didn't have any sort of backup, like, you know, like a contingency plan. If I were running a country, I'd have a plan in place for if a pandemic was ever to arise again, because, you know, they happen, as history has shown, they come about. You should have had something, a plan of action on, you know, obviously you don't know what you're going to be dealing with when you get a new pandemic, but nothing in place at all for if it were to happen. And then all world's on lockdown, mental health increases, you know. So anyway, I'm going, my daughter's back from my bank. Okay.